Welcome to the Newsfirst newsroom. You heard the last couple of stories about court cases that are ongoing regarding allegations of things that happened during the previous regime. Tonight our focus is on one such incident, and our focus tonight is on one individual. That is this gentleman over here. He is former Sri Lankan ambassador to the United States based in Washington DC, Jaliya Wickramasuriya. Now he was arrested back in November 2016 and then eventually released on bail in March 2017 so that he could travel to the United States for a period of 3 months to undergo a medical surgery. Now it's been more than 3 months, but Mr. Wickramasuriya is still not in the country. Now the latest development comes in this form. We have received information, as well as there are several media reports today, that the FBI, or the Federal Bureau of Investigation of the United States, has approached our former ambassador in order to get him as a state witness, or a prosecution's witness as they call it in the United States, in a case connected to the former first family of Sri Lanka and the people connected to this first family. Now, why is this happening and how did we get here? For that, we need to go back to 2006. Now in 2006, this gentleman got his first posting in the Sri Lankan Foreign Service, first as the Honorary Consul of Sri Lanka in Los Angeles. He served from 2006 to 2008, and in 2008 he was promoted to the rank of ambassador and moved to the posting in Washington DC. This is where things get interesting. During his tenure, he decides, right, we need a new building to house our embassy in Washington. So they search for a place and they find one. And this is the location that they found, based in Whitehaven Street in Washington, DC. This is in the area where the other embassies, several other embassies, are also located. Estimates were made, and they asked for $6.6 million US in order to purchase this account. This was the value that was given to the Sri Lankan government, and once the approvals were made, this amount was deposited into an escrow account so that this property could be bought. But of that $6.6 million US, they only used $6.25 million in order to purchase this building. The remainder was about $322,000 US. $322,000 US. Now, according to the sources that we have received, according to sources from the United States, this $322,000 was split in two and given to two American companies as brokerage fees on the instructions of our former ambassador. Those two companies in question are Washington Fine Properties, of which the website I just showed you, and DCRE Company. These charges were made as brokerage fees. That's what they called it. However, there is no paper trail to connect these two companies to this brokerage fee. Later on, Jaliya Wickramasuriya, as I said, was arrested back in 2016. And when he was arrested, the information put forward to the court revealed that this money, the $322,000 US, was in fact given up to two American companies which are owned by Sri Lankans. And in one instance, one company got around $250,000 US, and this money was occasionally siphoned off and deposited from that company to a company which belongs to our former ambassador himself. This is how the story goes. Now, he is in the United States, so he has attorneys in the United States as well. His attorney in the United States sends an email to his counterpart in Sri Lanka marked confidential, and it states that this is a highly confidential matter and that the FBI has approached him to act as a state witness. This highly confidential email is leaked, goes to the hands of very powerful families, and then they take action. What action do they take? They file a writ petition in the Court of Appeal calling on the government to uphold the diplomatic immunity that Jaliya Wickramasuriya had. Diplomatic immunity that Jaliya Wickramasuriya had. Why is this important? Because if Jaliya Wickramasuriya claims that he has diplomatic immunity, the FBI cannot force him or corner him to testify in US courts against or on the case that they want him to testify. So that writ petition is currently in the Court of Appeal. It is being opposed by the Attorney General's Department, and Yasanta Kodaguda of the Attorney General's Department went up in this case and said, well, this decision to revoke his diplomatic immunity was made by the President, and the Court of Appeal cannot rule on it, and it should be taken to a higher court. This case will be taken up later this month as well, so we are waiting to see how this case will go forward. Now, this could be seen as a bid to stop Mr. Jaliya Wickramasuriya from testifying against the former First Family, against whom the United States authorities are building a case. Now, the current administration, the politicians in the current administration came to power claiming that there were plenty of allegations against the former administration. We are not quite sure why the US authorities have taken action to initiate a case against the former First Family. We don't know if it's because our Sri Lankan officials are not acting fast enough. In addition to that, there is another thing that comes to mind: the National Payment Platform. The National Payment Platform was something that was brought in earlier. It was highly flawed and therefore shot down. Now it is making a resurgence. Now the timing of this is very peculiar. Is the National Payment Platform currently coming into the limelight once again because they want to make it easier for the former regime, the people of the former regime, to send their money overseas? Or is it because they want to use this system so that they can send their own money earned through various deals and kickbacks overseas? This is something that the people should definitely keep an eye on, and News First will, of course, keep an eye on this developing story. I'm Ramesh Bandara from the News First newsroom. Time for a short commercial break.